should know that we are represented by a team of lawyers who are dealing with that issue. We have left it to them to attend to that, and I know that even when the SG put forward an application to the court, our own lawyers would have prepared our own responding affidavits to that, because the ANC has always been certain that the case it brought forward is consistent with its own constitution, and that it did not act outside the parameters of its own constitution in terms of executing the decision to ask the SG to step aside, consistent with a resolution taken at the 54th National Conference. So the decision by the courts, without necessarily seeing the reasons, knowing that our legal team have put forward our responding affidavits, seems to be in affirmation of what the NEC of the African National Congress shall have done, that we did not act outside the parameters and outside our own authority. We did what was empowered to us as the National Executive Committee of the ANC by conference. We applied the rules as set out in our own constitution and the guidelines that we shall have put forward as it relates to conditions under which a member could be asked to step aside.
What is the...
Well, perhaps confidently, but of course, because you are saying I must say it in confidence that those have been resolved. So okay, restate as a point in confidence that the timelines outlined by the African National Congress have been met, together with the consequential reasons that we gave. And the consequential reasons we gave was that should it happen that they are recurring disputes that need to be attended to, we will deal with those even beyond elections. That is outlined in the communique that our Deputy Secretary General, Comrade Jesse Duarte, wrote to all our structures.
So all the outstanding names will be submitted as required or as expected?
Of course, we are doing everything, working around the clock. I mean, we are here at the head office. The DSG is here, working with the team to do everything else to make sure that we could meet the deadline.
Mr. Mabe,
Well, thanks, Ndebo. We did say in the communique that we wrote to provinces, calling on them to make sure that they finalize dealing with disputes by 11 a.m. on Saturday, that should there be disputes that are pending, the resolution of those shall be ongoing. We will be dealing with disputes even beyond elections. Should we discover, Ndebo, after elections, that Ndebo might have sneaked his way into the list by undermining a populist process of the community, we will then force and cause a by-election in that area if we had won that specific ward. So the ANC is a big organization, and being big means that the resolution of problems in the ANC, the discovery of solutions to a number of challenges we face, becomes an ongoing exercise, becomes something that we must be doing on an ongoing basis. So what we needed to do on Saturday, we shall have done that, so that we ready ourselves to be able to meet the deadline of the IEC. Should there be recurring issues that still require to be attended to in the form of disputes, those can even be dealt with beyond elections. So if you have managed to find your way now, and it's later discovered that this was a manipulated maneuver, the ANC will then act to correct that, like we did through the Nkosana Dlamini Zuma Commission. You'd remember after 2011, we were sitting with a similar situation. Our leadership, after the 2012 National Conference, still went on. I remember we were deployed with Comrade Joel and the late Comrade Jackson to go to Mpendle in KwaZulu-Natal to deal with their disputes. And we had caused by-elections in many of those areas. Cadres of the ANC that have been participating in these processes, they know that shortcuts are not helpful. But also, I must emphasize this point, there's going to be consequences for wrongful conduct that undermines processes of the ANC. Should it be found that yourself as a regional leader, you knowingly undermined processes of the ANC, or yourself as a branch leader, you knowingly manipulated the desire and wish of the community, then you must know it's obvious. You are going to be dealt with and could also find yourself being expelled from the African National Congress, because the ANC is not going to continue keeping rogue elements that give the party a wrong name because it wants to continue leading in communities. We are going to lead our communities on the basis of honesty. And if we outline a process that the community participate in the selection of candidates, we must be seen to be true to that process, both in action and in deeds. So no one is going to be spared from this exercise.
But can you confidently?
Because you are suggesting that if candidates are not going to be registered, they will then become violent. In the African National Congress, we have gone to, our people have maintained their locus standi or domicilium sedanda, their addresses, even when the DA had won the seat of government. The people of Khayelitsha did not relocate from Cape Town because suddenly the DA has formed government in the city of Cape Town. The people of Tshwane, comrades in Tshwane, did not relocate because there was suddenly a coalition government. Here in Johannesburg, our comrades did not relocate because suddenly there was a coalition government in the city of Joburg. Where we have lost wards, our people did not wake up and relocated because suddenly there's a new ward councillor there. The African National Congress doesn't work like that. It is a self-respecting organization of members who understand that, in society that fully understand, especially those that are behind the ANC, that a democratic process based on the will of the people can always produce whatever outcomes. If the ANC did not believe in democracy and what underpins it, it would not be participating in elections. You know, we had withdrawn our application to the Electoral Court to give way to the logic we had advanced when we joined the IEC application to the Concord. And the Concord has already made a ruling, which ruling is simple. It doesn't need our interpretation. If you open a voter's roll and allow Sabc to now enlist his details in the voter's roll, now every voter is entitled to be voted for should they wish to occupy that space. And the Municipal Electoral Act makes provision for independence as well. So meaning that what happens if all these 18-year-olds and others who might have missed out and others who might have changed the address decide that they want to register as independents? They still enjoy that, because once you have opened the voters' roll, you then provide for that. You see, we need to be careful not to over-politicize processes that are supposed to be undertaken by the IEC. We must trust in the independence, credibility and integrity of the Independent Electoral Commission and their ability to run free and fair elections. You would know this, Samkelo, that they would have turned down our initial application to have the whole process opened. And they raised the reasons in the manner that they did. And if the court, had the court ruled that we're supposed to continue with elections, I can tell you now, the ANC was going to be the first organization to abide, because we are a law-abiding organization. We can't agree to a process and halfway be the ones that want to change the rules. We participate in the PLC. We have got a fair chance through the PLC to raise our own issues. Where we feel that the process has got some ways where it might exclude certain parties or independents, we raise all of that. So Samkelo, if the Concord takes its own decision, the ANC will then have to reflect once it reaches that point. Where we are now, elections have been proclaimed. We are all working on making sure that we run a better campaign. anchored on what councillors will be doing in those communities where they are standing as prospective councillors, should we be able to emerge victorious here. Said that our provinces and regions need to put up mechanisms sufficient enough to make sure that cadres and communities participating in our different gatherings feel safe. The ANC doesn't invite hooligans or thugs to its own meetings. The ANC invite members of the African National Congress in good standing to attend these gatherings. It is unfortunate that at times our gatherings are hijacked by hooligans, gangsters, criminals, thugs, baying for the blood of innocent people. We should be able to ask our structures to expose this network wherever it exists, so that law enforcement agencies could act. And we must commend the people of Lephalale in Limpopo. When there was such kind of an incident, the communities there, the eyewitnesses, general society, members of society, worked with law enforcement agencies, and in no time, those involved in these incidences were apprehended. Had it not been of the cooperation of our structures, the African National Congress, in that region of Waterberg, the community of Lephalale, it might not have been easy for the police to act with the kind of speed that they've acted on. But also we must commend law enforcement agencies that where they are aware of such incidences of violent crimes taking place, they are seen to act as well. So there's been a lot that has been done to deal with political killings. In KwaZulu-Natal, in Limpopo, the instance that I've just in Mpumalanga, and everywhere else where such acts are reported to be taking place, police act swiftly, because the constitution of this country is also anchored around the protection of life. One of the fundamental rights in the Bill of Rights is to give you and me the right to life. So there is no one who has got the right to take the life of another person, because when they do that, they go against the spirit of our own Bill of Rights and the very Constitution, which is supposed to be the custodian of those fundamental rights that every citizen must enjoy.
Could we see more violence should the court?
Samkelo, we are quite concerned about the killings that happened over the weekend in KwaZulu-Natal, in Inanda, where 3 of our comrades lost their lives, 8 others were injured and are still recovering in hospital. I don't think that it's about these killings being in vain. It's the loss of one life too many. Every life lost matters, whether it's out during a protest, at a branch general meeting or community meeting of the ANC, because the ANC stands for the protection of lives, even outside its own gatherings. We do not have to wait for the courts for us to show regard for the lives of others. It's concerning to us, and we are aware that the leadership of the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal will be visiting the families of the deceased, and they are in interaction with the families of those that would have been injured during this drive-by shooting. This worries us a lot, because the ANC is not a violent organization. We do not want to harbor violent individuals in our organization. We have made an appeal to communities out there to work with law enforcement agencies so that they could act with the necessary speed to apprehend those that could be involved in these instances. But we must also make a call to our cadres, those that are standing as councillors, those that have been councillors in the past, that all of them, without necessarily passing any form of judgment, that they ought to respect the democratic processes that the ANC has opted for, especially one where communities are made to participate in choosing who their public representatives should be. If Samkelo was a ward councillor of Ward 6, and there is a community meeting to prepare for the 2021 local government elections. Samkelo, as a true cadre, must be the one that embraces the outcomes of that community meeting. Because if Samkelo, as an incumbent councillor, is the one who then embraces the community choice and even goes out to campaign for that choice of the community, Samkelo will continue to enjoy the support of that community. So our councillors who might not have made it in this nomination processes are called upon to work with those that would have made it, where there are instances of violence and all of that, and those councillors could play a role in assisting in the investigations and all of that. They too, like all other members of the African National Congress, should submit themselves and help law enforcement agencies uncover what would have happened. We need to work with everyone, ordinary community members who might not be members of the ANC, who might have been eyewitnesses to these incidents, that they too come out. Because we can only build safer communities when each one of us performs their civic duty.
Mr. Mabe, though